my first time working with Spring into Wealth, but I think that it's a great concept. I like the fact that you brought together a lot of great experts and stuff like that. One of the things I would say is I don't know how big the social media platforms are and stuff like that, but I would encourage you to consider utilizing bigger platforms with people that have those platforms and partnering with those individuals. And so that always goes a long way. Just like I'll go to people and just say, look, if I give you some money, will you share this? Will you email this out and share this with the audience? Stuff like that, or even inviting them in. Like you did with me, the way you invited me in. I think, and in fact, actually, I'll tell myself and say that I think that you could have gotten someone like of my caliber, maybe at a lower price point, and maybe got two or three people like that. Because especially since it's virtual and it's just like online, you bring in like two or three people and pay them, and then as long as there are people that can sell a ticket, like that's the idea. Like if you have people that are coming in that are experts, that's different from somebody who can sell a ticket. Like so we had our Women of Wealth weekend. We had our experts, we had our accountants, our lawyers, everything else, but nobody knew who they were. But we have Vicky Dillard who works with us, and Vicky Dillard could convince people to want to come to the event, right? Vicky, because that's what an influencer does. That's the value of an influencer, right? And Vicky earned that. Vicky earned it by engaging the heck out of the audience, by being good at what she does, and gaining trust and appreciation from the audience. So to the point where they were like, okay, if Vicky says this is a good thing, then we'll at least take a look. And it's not manipulative at all. It's just the reality of life. So I would say that's something. Then I think, thinking about what you do with your content after the event is over, in terms of, maybe keeping that and utilizing that, monetizing that. Because I personally think that a series of expert videos is better than a book, and easier to make. And you have a higher price point. It's not as, writing a book takes like a year and it's boring and people got to sit there and read the whole thing. Whereas, I mean, one book might be okay, that first book, to establish credibility. But then after that, why not teach a class? Something like that. Like my friend Lene Javette, she has a program called Course to Currency. It's coursetoCurrency.com. And basically she shows people how to create an online class. And I thought that was a great idea for her because that's what's happening now. What's happening now is Black people are starting to take over the Black education market. We've always had experts, $1 trillion worth of human capital, as far as experts out here that could um, teach the community, people who've worked at corporations and all this other stuff. So now you're seeing a lot of people building these teaching platforms that are really allowing people to supplement their college degree, or sometimes skip graduate school or even college altogether. And I personally think that's better education, because if I really want to learn how to do something, I went to college because I want to learn how to make money, and that's it. And so if you could have just said, "Look, boys, we ain't gonna put you through a Greek history class or make you study, I don't know, Irish peasants." I took a class on Irish peasants. I cared nothing about Irish peasants, right? But I had to take that class to get through University of Kentucky. If you just said, "Here's a millionaire who's going to show you how to be a millionaire too," I'd have been like, I want that class." Those are some thoughts.
Yeah, that's helpful. So let me ask you this: given sort of where we are in this weird sort of not COVID sort of coming out, what is your preference in terms of platform? Is it in person or is it virtual?
Oh, I mean, during COVID, everything has to be virtual, right? But
Right.
outside of COVID, it's a trade off. Digital work is easier because I like to be home with my family. Like that's really my preference. And it's also just more profitable because it's not as much overhead. It allows, like, I could reach the whole world. Like I could wake up in the morning, send out an email, and reach people in all corners of the globe by within 30 minutes, right? Whereas the act of packing my bags, making plans to leave and getting buying a plane ticket, going driving through traffic to get to the airport, flying across the world, all the other stuff, like that's like literally dedicating 3 days of my life, to something like that. So in person is much more costly in every way, in terms of money, and more importantly, time is always more valuable than money. And the other thing too is, so that's the downside. The upside though is, in person has something that you can't get digitally. Like I do in person events not for the money, because I can make more money from home, right? I do in-person events because I like to see people. I like to look them in the eye. I like to hug them, shake their hand, engage with them directly. And that's something like that human element is something that I personally find to be rewarding. But the hard part is if you do, like the event you went to in New York, Aaron, you were in New York, right? Like that event maybe, I don't know how much it costs. Maybe it costs us 30,000 to put it on or something like that, and then we made a profit, but you got to put up all that cash. And if one thing goes wrong, COVID hits, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Next thing you know, you done lost all this money and you done made all these hotel reservations and all these plans for all these people to travel. So we try to just keep a mix where we can still go out and engage people, but really to level the playing field, we use technology very extensively, and it's that's the best way I think to generate income, revenue, stuff like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
See, we got somebody just popped in. Miss Helen Love, how are you?
Hi, Helen.
Hey, Helen.
Helen is she was on the team. She was one of our moderators for support the event.
Oh,
so hey, Helen,
nice.
say hey to the good people.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see y'all too. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or you don't have to ask me questions. I mean, I figure we should talk.
I'm a note taker. And I really tapped in, like from the spiritual thing. And one of the things that you said on Saturday was about financial fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I appreciate that, because one of the biggest challenges I think as Black people is we don't have expanded imagination for money. We're just limited to what we have in our account, right? Mm-hmm. So I always use the concept that money is only an idea. It's not something that you have to chase. You have to chase an idea. And with the right idea, you produce money. So if I said, we can make $10,000 next week and you just need 1,000 and you don't have it, you can go borrow 100 from 10 people with the right idea and you got your $10,000. So when you use that term, financial fertility, how do you, when you talk to folks, are you using this in training or, where did that come from for you? Where was the motivation for that?
Well, financial fertility, I had not seen that concept in any textbook or anything, but money is naturally fertile, and it's actually the equations that you use to value a stock. The equations I would teach my students back at Syracuse and stuff. All these equations are actually rooted in biology. They actually literally come from biology. So the same way you can model mathematically the way a plant grows, or even a human or an animal grows, you can model money the same way. You just change a couple variables. So the concept of financial fertility basically says the more money you have, the more money you'll make if you put your money to work. Like your money, literally, when they say let your money work for you, it really does multiply itself. Do you remember that movie Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor? And they gave him I don't know if it was $30 million or something like that, or $1 billion. It was a lot of money, and they told him he had to spend all that money in 30 days, and he really, literally, almost pretty much couldn't do it. Like that's kind of, to me, an example of financial fertility, because money can grow. You get to the point where money can grow almost like a weed. Like it's just money coming from everywhere. So there's either people that have abundance or people that have scarcity, and the reality is that financial fertility kind of comes into this idea that if you see your money as a seed and you're planting seeds constantly, then you're going to constantly have fruit. You're going to constantly have a harvest. You're going to constantly have a reaction to your initial actions. So when people don't have a harvest, then the first question to ask is, did you plant these seeds, right? You don't have any fruit. You don't have any reaction. Well, did you commit the initial action? What was your initial action? If your initial action was nothing, then your reaction is going to be nothing, because nothing plus nothing leads to nothing, right? Like they said in their song, ain't nothing going on but the rent, right? So basically, that's what I thought about with financial fertility, is that's the best way to describe what compound interest does with money. Like compound interest truly is explosive. Like it's literally just something where you get the momentum going and boom, it takes off and it does things. It grows into something that you can never imagine. So I think that, to your point about money consciousness and the energy and the spirituality behind it, a lot of times our wealth does not grow because our imagination is limited. we get trapped in the moment. We see what's there and we think that's all that there can be. And we all fall in that trap. Like whenever I look at a newborn baby, I can't imagine that newborn baby as a grown up. I can't, I play video games with my son who's like 28 years old now. And I remember when he was 2 and I swore he would never grow up, you know? And that's and that, but the reality is obviously logically I should have known, like, yeah, he's going to grow into a grown man, and now is not going to last forever. But we always fall in the trap. We always think now is going to be forever, and that which is always all that there's going to be, and that's just not true. So if a person can get past that limitation and see that, okay, I got this little business, I'm working my butt off, I'm putting all my money into it, but this isn't all that there is. There's more to come that I can't even see right now. Then that helps you to kind of move forward. And that leans on other concepts besides just financial literacy. It leads on the things related to what you're talking about, energy and emotional intelligence and faith, right? Faith is big, like, okay, I have faith that if I plant these seeds and I keep planting consistently, good things are going to happen. I lean on faith every single day, because sometimes you are crossing a bridge that has where you cannot see the other side of that bridge, so faith is what leads me to say, well, every other time I crossed the bridge, 9 times out of 10, it wasn't a bridge to nowhere. It was a bridge to somewhere. So I'm just going to cross this bridge and I'm going to be okay. I don't need to know that everything's going to be okay to know that I'm going to be okay. Do you see what I mean? Like whatever lies in front of me, I'm sure I'm going to get through it. So that's where I think, like, I don't really go to church and stuff, but my mama was really into, she got her Jesus and got her God. And I think whatever it is that people need to lean on, like, lean on that to let you know that you're going to be okay. Even if the worst thing in the world happens to you, you're still going to be fine. As long as your attitude and your energy is right, you should be okay.
And so when you think about creating wealth, what were some of the books that you read in the beginning? Like, I'll just let you tell me what books, because I have assumptions, but you tell me. What are some of the books you read? My
favorite books are like Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth. Most of the books I learned like financial wealth from were actually like textbooks in school. Like, books like, I don't know, principles of cash flow management and, the art of value investing, like I learned from like real technical stuff, because that was my training. It was like nothing but math and financial theory. And then eventually it linked back to the real world. And so that was where I got kind of my roots. And so when I come out of my PhD program and I see books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I appreciate those books. I think those are great lessons, and it tells you the value of storytelling. But those are kind of books where I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. He's talking about the present value of an annuity. He's explaining it in a way where anybody can get it. And there's a value to that. But I'm not a guy that would necessarily have to read a book like that, because I get what he's saying. Or like David Bach has a good book called The Automatic Millionaire. I never read it, but all he's talking about is compound interest. And he's talking about compound interest, consistent action, and faith, like we were just talking about before, meaning that most people in America that become millionaires are not like cash money, fast money millionaires. They're like automatic millionaires, meaning that they set something up in their IRA or 401k and they have, $300 a week coming out of their check and going into their 401k. And then they're consistently invested in the stock market over a 30, 40-year period. And boom, one day they wake up and they find out they're a millionaire or close to it. Right. That's all that is. So effectively, those are the books that influenced me the most. Now, in terms of running a business, I read a book called Traction that really helped a lot. Traction helped because Traction taught about delegation. And delegation, I find, is really important, because what happened to me was, my first goal was like, okay, how can I get off this plantation? I got to quit this job. I got to get out of this situation. And so I bought my freedom. I was able to make enough money outside of my job to sustain myself. Right. And then it was like, okay, now I'm working. I'm making more money, but I'm working myself into the ground. I need some help. So then I learned how to delegate and bring in an assistant and a manager and some other people. And then you were able to scale a little bit through the delegation. But even then there's a whole art to delegation and leadership that I didn't really understand. Like, if you're a craftsman or craftswoman and you're used to getting your hands dirty and working hard and digging in, sometimes you can't do that. You get to a point where you're hurting your business if you are always in there with getting your hands in every pot trying to do everything. You have to learn how to you have to get a new skill set, the ability to pick people that you can trust who will go in there and handle on your behalf, so you don't work yourself into the ground. And so that delegation piece and dealing with people and personalities and making sure I don't say something stupid You know, just little things like if you're not careful, you can have somebody quit your job, quit your company because you didn't give them a compliment after they did a good job. You assume that they knew they did a good job and they didn't want more money. You gave them more money. You're like, well, I gave them $5,000. What do you want? And they're like, no, I wanted you to tell me I did a good job. I wanted you to, they wanted you to praise them in front of other people or whatever. And so, so those little things, those soft skills were things I actually had to learn. I had to get a coach for that. And then there's technology on top of that, which is another whole nother animal as far as scaling. And then beyond that, though, is that next level of wealth that I found, which is when you have the ownership of assets and you have enough assets you own that you can structure the system where you don't really have to do much of anything except just be an owner. And that's, the journey, I guess.
And you confirm like where I think we have to focus more on. I don't think people pay attention to emotional intelligence and how it impacts business on a large scale. Because what you just described, people, if you didn't compliment them or whatever, it's all emotional stuff that we're not paying attention to sometimes in our transactions, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I learned one of the best things I ever learned. I had a leadership coach named Nicole Price. And what Dr. Price explained to me was something that a lot of people knew. I knew it sort of, I'd heard of it, but I didn't actually pursue it in detail. Was there's a website called 16personalities.org or something like that. And on 16personalities.org, they give you a test of your personality type. And they basically explain that there's like 16 personality types. And what she explained to me, which I thought was so helpful, was she said, what might make sense to you may make no sense to somebody who's in a different personality type. Like, so she would put the personalities together. Like, let's say, for example, make it simple, an introvert and an extrovert. So she said, okay, you're the introvert. Like, I'm more of an introvert. She said, so you'll sit there and you'll just listen when somebody's talking. Well, she said, sometimes an extrovert might be talking to you and see that you're not engaging and they'll think you're being rude. When really you think you're being respectful because you're processing what they say. Right. But then the introvert may feel that the extrovert is just getting on their nerves. Like when you stop talking, please, and that's just like literally like an oversimplification of it, So what she taught me was that like in our organization, when we bring people in, a lot of them, we will have them take that personality test so that we will know what their personality type is. And it'll tell you what types of jobs that person is most likely to want to do. And learning that was huge for me because sometimes you get confused, just even men and women. You look at how many times we get our signals crossed and, we're like, wait, that shouldn't offend you. Like, why are you so mad about that? I mean, it takes time to learn the other language.
I have an assessment like that with True Colors. We call it True Colors, but it's the same thing. And it helps a lot. It really does.
Yes, it really does. And those people skills, that's very important, and I found that was kind of the biggest puzzle in terms of figuring out how to sort of piece things together.
Hey, Dr. Boyd, quick question. When you talk about remember I told you before, I'm a member of the DE 2000 program that you guys have.
Oh, the Digital Underground, yes.
Yeah. I got my shirt. It's not on.
Nice.
But, my question was, because I haven't been in crypto kind of since. I got some Bitcoin, I got some other altcoins. When you talk about the blockchain technology, how does somebody get involved? Not in the coins, but to be able to make money off the blockchain technology.
Well, if you, I don't have them in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet you that if we did a search around online to find like blockchain related companies that are publicly traded, that might be a way to get in. Like that's how I got into cannabis. I thought about, doing it the regular way, buying, into some sort of business that actually raised and grew and sold the cannabis. And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna find some companies that are in that industry and invest in those companies. And I did, and it worked, and I made a lot of money from it. So I think that the same thing could be true with crypto and blockchain. You don't have to buy crypto to benefit from blockchain. In fact, blockchain is probably the only part of crypto that is guaranteed to be around 20, 30 years from now. A lot of the original, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all that may be gone. Like the internet, for example, when the internet first came along, everybody knew the internet was going to be big. But the leaders on the internet, the biggest technology platforms built on top of the internet, a lot of them are dead. You know, MySpace and AOL.com was real big at the time, and Netscape and all that. Like those are not even major players anymore. And so, but the internet is still a major player. So blockchain, from my view, is kind of what the internet was. You know, so I bet you that if you search blockchain related companies or publicly traded companies on the blockchain, you'll find some blockchain companies out there that you can invest in. And I think I personally think it's a move I would make. And I own crypto too. I still own it. You know, I mean, even in 2017 when it crashed, I just held on to most of what I owned, and just deal with the punches.
Just kind of out, but just kept it and let it ride. So
yeah. It's a long way from becoming a mature industry, because there's so many people that are against it. You don't know what it's going to do long term.
Well, I will say, based on seeing Bitcoin ATMs in the gas station and stuff, they plan to be around. They're not going nowhere. Whether we like it or not, they plan to be around.
Yeah, I think they do too. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I own Bitcoin. I believe in it, but you never know. I mean, it's like anybody makes some crazy announcement. When Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, just said, she said something terrible about it, and it totally killed it. Like Bitcoin was on its way to going over 60,000, and then she just stepped in deliberately, like harming the price. I think it was strategic. Like I'm just gonna say something crazy and make people, start selling, and it worked. I mean, she did it.
Wow.
Donna's here, and Ashley Renee are here. I don't know if they have any questions.
Do either one of you all have questions? Welcome to the call. And you're both muted.
Hello. I don't have any specific questions. I had a comment to say I find it very informational. So thank you for the platform to share the information.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for coming by. It's good to see you.
Same here. Thank you.
They don't have to come up with like a digital autograph, right? So I could say I was, literally in the room with Dr. Boyce. How we get the digital autograph?
I mean, I guess you could just take a picture.
Well, that is true.
Yeah, you can do a screenshot.
Kids are not even learning cursive anymore. So, like, what's the signature, right? Your eyeball, right?
Yeah, right.
In the room with Dr. Boyce. I'm sure you can sell that for 25 cents on the open market. Well, what you say, Marquita? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, so I found it interesting, obviously listening to you and you talking about the 100-year plan to wealth. And I laughed. I said, gosh, I have a hard time getting these people to understand 59 and a half to retirement to take the money. So now you're making me jump another 40, years. But, even being one of the speakers, listening to you, there was some things I kind of got. I said, I'm going to steal that from him. He'll be okay. So
yeah. Still, feel free to steal from me. These ideas are not my own. Maybe I have a little bit of an extra recipe on it, but I don't. I think this is the kind of stuff that we need as many of our people as possible to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I think iron sharpens iron, and what you were talking about 59 and a half, and then the 100-year plan idea is one of those things where it's like, I'm a believer that, going back to what Diamond was talking about with energy, I believe that a lot of times one aspect of energy is people that just really think really big and grand and go for it. They just tend to have these amazing outcomes, that they didn't even expect. So my thought was, why not do something big? Why not let's see if we can make a 100-year plan, and just really seize the moment and really document the power of our vision for the next 100 years. How powerful would it be to read a letter from your great-great-grandfather or grandmother from 1921 talking about the year 2021 and saying, this is what we're doing for you right now to make sure that the year 2020, 2021 is good for you. Like, that would be huge.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
I ask people when I meet with clients all the time, what is your great-great-great-grandmother or father's name? Most people don't know.
No.
I don't know, but I'm sure if I was getting a check every month, I would know his name, her name, or I tell them about trying to leave generational wealth. So question I did have, you have any idea, and I was doing some research on like maybe the average cost of the dynasty trust.
Mm-hmm.
So how much an attorney, the typical cost of that for an attorney, you would have a round figure, or is it just everybody's different?
I think it would depend on the attorney, and it would depend on the complexity of the estate. I don't remember what I paid. I think to do all of our estate plan. I mean, there was one day we sat with the lawyer for like 6 hours, and
oh well, yeah, I already know that was hefty.
Yeah, and that bill was a big fat bill. Yeah, he was happy to buy us dinner. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He was he had cotton candy waiting for us in the lobby. But it's I don't think it has to necessarily be super expensive, and I don't think it has to be done all at once. But and I think it would vary by the attorney. But but I've tried to think about that, like what would that even look like? I mean, because you talk about, a trust lasting, for 80, 90, 100 years or longer.
Right.
You're talking about institutional lifespans. Like a human being isn't going to live that long. And the biggest question my family had, every Sunday we have our family business meeting. I was telling them about the dynasty trust I wanted to do. And they were like, they were talking about like my niece and nephew and my daughter. And they were like, yeah, but they won't get a chance to enjoy it. And I said, yeah, it's not for them. And it's not even for their kids. It's literally for their grandkids or maybe great grandkids. And I kind of did the math. I was like, okay, so let's say you got 5 people in the trust, and you just write it in the contract, like, okay, you must be a descendant of one of these 5 people, right? So those 5 people have 3 kids. That's 15 people in one generation. Then those 15 each have 3 kids. That's 45. And then you go another generation. 45 times 3 is 135 people. So I said, okay, so let's say that you did that and you did it consistently, and you grew that to say $1 billion. Right. And let's say that every year, I don't know, whatever investment vehicle you use is earning like 5% per year. So $50 million split amongst 145 people, $50 million a year. Right. What would that number look like? And I forgot what it was. Maybe it's $500,000 a person or something like that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like that would be really, like, I mean, it's definitely a life-changing amount of money. It's generational wealth. And then you have this big endowment that's just there for all the generations to come. I just think it would be like so much fun to do, and it's very doable for literally anybody that wants to do
it. Jamie, I asked Marquita, me and Marquita talked about, because I thought about it. And me and Marquita are partners in the sense that she works for my insurance agency as a financial individual. So, I always thought like, when after hearing you talking, after like I said, that financial calculator kind of threw me off, the F&N calculator. Once I learned how to use that, it kind of. But I thought about like families, churches, like you got these mega churches and thousands of members, and I thought like, what if 300 members put $20 once a month? That's $6,000 a month. You got people that go in the same church for 40, 50 years. Now the church can become the bank, and you can do the same thing like you say. If you got 10 family members putting up $1,000 a month, you ain't going nowhere. It could change the whole narrative of the family. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, it just getting people to buy into that practice. So what you said, Saturday kind of reinforced what I've been telling my family, that I'm doing it for my children, but trying to do it as a family, and it's interesting that people just can't really see it. And it's interesting.
Yeah, you can't.
I have to.
Go ahead.
I have to lean more what Dr. Boyce said about creating your family. Because ain't nobody in my family. We're gonna create with some outside. You gotta create. I'm on that more create your own inside. So.
Yeah. Every family member can't join up. It's kind of sad, but true.
I mean, even if you get 10, you got, both sides of my family both of my grandmothers had 9 children. So when you get the grandchildren and families, there's enough of us to do something. But hey,
But that's how Anthony Robbins and his siblings became millionaires. They took out a group policy on his mom or their parents, like a $10 billion policy, and they paid the premium, and that's how they became millionaires. Like, yeah. So you guys are in the industry, right? So the biggest thing, that's why we do strategies and concepts, because the biggest challenge for people is to see how it makes practical sense. So if you can guarantee yourself, and we all know we're going to transition. If you can guarantee yourself to be a millionaire, grandma is 80, and even if you know you're paying $100 a month and you're going to be guaranteed to be a millionaire in 20 years, let's hope grandma will live to 100, right? Wouldn't it be worth it to invest $100 a month to know, like, you're going to have $2 million coming? So it really is with Black people, you got to really get us to see a vision, because we're very limited in our ability to visualize.
Exactly. $1 million policy on the 80-year-old will be a whole lot.
We all would do it. Yeah, we all would do it, but the key is to give those scenarios to see, like, this is building wealth. You know,
but it's about what I always tell people about breaking generational curses and cycles, and that's what I talk about. I talk to people about that all the time, because people think because my family didn't have it, because I was that person. If nobody in my family has it, then what made me different? Well, what made me different was getting the information and knowledge and learning. Is someone saying, and I think I said it's already 3 words to me: plan, save, and invest. Those were foreign to me as a teen, as a young adult, because nobody in my family did that. We were just, with the next meal, we living, life was, that was everything. So teaching people that and trying to change that, and so sometimes you got to get people out of the little mindset to get them into the big mindset. And that's a challenge within our community, which is frustrating as all get out, because sometimes we can't see, we just get stuck in that cycle of every time you got to have a new pair of shoes, or every 3 years you get a brand new car. No. Your car paying for it, it's okay. It's okay to take that money and invest it so that it's doing more. Because the moment you drive that car off the lot, it already depreciates. So it's great to have a nice car. You have to have one every 3 years.
Right on. Well, yeah,
I
agree. It's standards. I mean, I grew up hearing a lot of very negative talk about what it was like to be Black, or even to be a Black man. Like, you growing up hearing stuff like, well, it's good that you graduated from high school. You're a Black man. A lot of Black boys don't even graduate from high school. A lot of Black boys are dead by 21. And you're like, oh, okay, so I accomplished something to live to be 21 years old. No, you didn't. Set the bar a little higher. And I believe that kids, all of us, achieve based on what standards and expectations we have. And the big difference, that I can recall, because that's why I like what Diamond does and Marquis. I like what everybody does, in this group, because it's like, because when I remember when I grew up, I think my parents were a little bit weird, because they just had a different standard for us. Like, it wasn't one of those like, well, at least you're not in jail, or well, at least you only got 3 babies, mamas, or whatever, or like it was just like this basic personal responsibility that says, anything you want, if you work hard enough, you'll get it. You're responsible for your life. Your choices are the biggest factor that determine your outcomes. If your outcomes are not what you want, it's because you made certain choices. There was no, let's just sit around here and complain about the white man and everything else. And I know that's out there. It was always out there. It just wasn't presented. It's like, my dad's approach was like, well, the white man's going to keep on being white. He's going to keep doing what he does. He's going to keep taking care of his family, and he's going to exploit you every chance he gets if you let him. So what are you going to do? And I just really think that says a lot, because like you're talking about, when you kind of are, when you see yourself as like I was born at the bottom, like you're always comparing yourself to the bottom, so even if you do a little bit, you're like, well, at least I'm not at the bottom, until you get in the struggle-nomics kind of mindset. That's what Lise was, like Marquita was talking about, this whole idea, like, I'm just thinking about trying to eat tomorrow and make sure I have a roof over my head. Well, what about when you have a roof over your head and you're eating good and you get some extra income? Doesn't mean you run to Burger King or to the Air Jordan store. Now it's time to build. You can do this.
Yeah, mindset is everything. So one of the things that people always talk about when you are going through a struggle is, well, you should feel good because there's people worse off than you. Well, my approach to life is there are people better off than you too. Figure out what they're doing. So when you do put yourself measure up to a bar that's low, then you don't really have anywhere to go, especially if it's lower than you. Yep. So my nephew, he's very smart. He gets like 4.0, but in his class, he's also taking a training to become an EMT. You know, when he graduates, he'll be an EMT firefighter. And I said, Jaden, you have a brain. Don't stop just because you got those skills. Don't graduate and just now become an EMT. Or, you know, Black men use their brains too. So I want you to just see that as like a fallback. But keep going. And if we're not saying that, because we always make it seem like all our Black men have to do is use their body, their muscle. But they have brains too that we don't. In our community, we've been taught to work hard, but people who work hard don't make money. You know, the hardest working people, and it's not to put down, it's an observation. They're not making money though. The construction workers work hard.
Yeah, they do.
But they're not making money. And even if they are making $50, $40 an hour, and I'm just probably, you know, being extra, the time and energy they're losing from working so hard, the money doesn't even have the same value because they don't have the time and energy to even indulge themselves. So it's really important to, I mean, for me to, when I talk about wealth consciousness, think about how you're managing your energy, not just your time, because we've been taught, oh, time is money, but time is not just money. Like, it's your energy that makes you move in time. So if you have a whole day, most of us will take a whole day off of work and say, well, I'm going to take the whole day off and clean. But if you use your energy, misuse it before that day, the day will go by and you won't clean. It's not that you didn't have time, you didn't have energy. So that's the thing that people are not doing is I manage my energy. When I set my schedule up, I'm looking to see how much energy am I going to have to invest when I meet with Dr. Boyce. Is he going to drain me? Or is he going to give me some energy? And what can I do after that? Because sometimes I can't meet with certain clients because I know once I meet with them, I'm not going to have energy to take my daughter to basketball because I'm going to be drained. So I think when we think about how we manage our energy versus our time, it's a whole shift. And most people don't understand and say, oh, I had the whole day and I didn't get nothing done. Because you mismanaged your energy for that day. You went and talked to negative Nancy and this person and that person, and now, you know, you didn't have the energy to fulfill your day. So for me, that's very important. And I don't think that's being communicated enough because we're so religious in our community, right? And all we need is Jesus. And I keep telling people, when is he coming? And I'm not trying to put nobody down. Right. But I'm like, where is he? Is he coming in here? Or, you know, that's all I need. Then that case of water is still sitting in the truck. Can he bring it in for me? No, I need some energy, right?
I actually have a question.
Energy. You keep talking about all you need is Jesus. I need energy.
Dr. Watkins, I'm curious of your opinion. I have a soon-to-be 17-year-old. I look at my kid. I just don't see him doing well in corporate. He is his mama's child, very rebellious. So what would you say at this juncture, college is a good investment? Because I'm not wedded to that for him. I'm like, even if you can find a trade where you can take care of yourself and maintain this lifestyle, I'll be okay. But what is your opinion financially?
Well, I think that, okay, financially or just my opinion in general about the dealing with 17, because we got a 17-year-old and we trying to, you know, offer advice that's not too impositional on him, you know. College has a place and college is a lot of fun. And I personally thought it was a great developmental experience for me. And I think a lot of people can enjoy it and appreciate it. The thing about college is I'm not going to say it's not for everybody, but not everybody's going to get the most out of that opportunity. Let's say that. Some people get to college and just their behavior just makes no sense to me. You know, like my mama just wrote a check for $40,000 for me to be here, and I'm just going to act a fool and waste mama's money. That would have gotten the death penalty in my house. like I would have woke up with a knife in my throat. Like, okay, I don't understand that kind of behavior. But whatever. So if your child falls in that category, then clearly they're not in a place that they can appreciate or be passionate about, which obviously means they would need to be someplace else. What we do with our kids, not that we are experts on any level, but you know, Alicia is a behavioral. She actually is technically a behavioral expert, right? She's a therapist and all that, right? And I know a couple of things or two. We try to gauge, you know, who they are, who the kids are, and what they want to do. You know, we watch them, like when nobody's telling you what to do and nobody's paying you any money. what do you want to do, when nobody else is watching? That helps me figure out like where you're going to be naturally happy, because I find it's easier to lead people in directions they already want to go than it is to grab them and say, here, go over here. Like that's just, it's stressful for everybody. Right. And so I would say that maybe figuring out what your 17-year-old is really passionate about. Like, what is it that you want out of your life now and in the future? What do you see? When I was 17, I wanted to make money. That was it. So if you had a place called Money Camp, I'd be like, okay, send me. I'm there, right? And I'm in. You ain't got to talk me into it or nothing. Like, I was into sports, so on my own, I would get up and I would run miles and miles and miles every single day because I wanted to be good at track. I was the captain of the track team. My mother didn't tell me to do it. My father, it was something I wanted to do, right? So just by observing me at that time, I think you can figure out like, okay, these are the things that motivate him. These are the things that don't, And so I think that with your 17-year-old, that's what I would do, and see what his interest is in college. Like, talk to him about it, expose him to a lot of things, see what lights him up. Let him know how far you're willing to go in terms of helping and supporting. I'm not a big believer in necessarily like carrying the child everywhere. Like, I'll see parents that'll fill out every application for the child and all that stuff. I didn't grow up in that type of space, but I've seen it work and not work. But I think at the very least, college is very expensive, and it has to be done right, with minimal debt. And also, I don't think the parent should take on all the debt. I think the child should take on some of that debt if there is debt. I also think it's critically important. The really important part, to me, is that your Black child has skills that will allow him to survive economically. And so from an economic standpoint, it comes down to ownership of stock, ownership of real estate, and starting a business. I believe every Black child should know how to start a business by the age of 12. Every Black child should own stock as soon as they're born. They should learn to want to buy real estate as soon as they can. Maybe inherit some real estate if you're smart enough to give it to them. That puts them in a position where they have a capital base. That's the key to economic security. That's what we're missing, that pushes us into slavery. Going into a capitalist society with no capital base is like going into an NFL football game with no pads, no skill, no game plan, and not even having the physical strength to play football, not even knowing which way the end zone is. You're literally dropped in the middle of a very competitive game. And if you're not ready, you're going to be destroyed. Capitalism will enslave you if you can't take care of yourself. So giving your child the capital base protects them. Because think about it. How many of us go to work and we get mad because of the racism on a job, and we want to cuss somebody out, want to quit the job, whatever. And we can't because, I got to pay my student loans, or I can't, because I can't pay my rent on my own. It's like being in a bad relationship. Like, that's why I talk to my girls about money. Is I say, you don't want to be in some relationship with some stupid man. You can't leave him because you can't figure out how to pay the bills. So let's get you a capital base and show you how to pay your own bills so that you can stay with that man out of choice. The key to freedom, like the sibling of freedom, is choices and options. Options and freedom are kind of the same thing. When you're in life and you have no options, you're going to be very depressed. They did studies with rats, actually, that show that when rats have no options, they get really depressed. The serotonin in their brain starts to increase, and they start to get really sad because they're in a bad situation and can't get out. So a lot of our people are depressed. Why? Well, because you're in a bad situation, you can't get out. How'd you end up in the bad situation? Well, nobody prepared you for the game you're about to play. They didn't give you a capital base. They didn't give you options. So there you go. And depression is a big problem in our community. Women and men show it in different ways, but like Terry Williams wrote that book Black Pain, where she talked about all the Black women that are depressed, but they're just functional with it, and because they're carrying the strong Black woman role, and you don't see it, but they're feeling depression for various reasons. And maybe the men, what we might do is we might drink ourselves to death or get involved with a bunch of women and just kind of do all kinds of self-destructive, suicidal things that don't appear to be suicidal on the surface. So that's a real thing. So there you go. I didn't mean to go that deep into it. But I really think that we got to think about financial preparation as literally something deeper than just being about money and having a fancy Lamborghini. It's about like literally living a quality life. And what Diamond was talking about, energy, my God, energy is huge in all of this. Like sometimes our energy can get toxic. We can feel drained. And when I think about my energy on a day-to-day basis, what I think about, Diamond, I think about, like, whenever somebody asks me to do something and I know it's going to take energy, I know my energy is limited. And I'll be thinking to myself, okay, is this something where I'm putting my energy into something that's going to have a benefit? Like, am I putting my energy into a jar where I can store it later and benefit from it later? Like I put the jar on the shelf, like wealth. Like that's how I explain wealth to our 13-year-old. Is I said, okay, income is water flowing through this faucet. This glass of water, when I fill it up, that's wealth. So what happens if there's no glass and the water's coming through the faucet? She said, it's all the water is going to be wasted and it's going to go away. And I said, yeah. And if somebody turns the faucet off, what happens? She said, you're going to die of dehydration. I said, exactly. So people who don't build wealth are people that let all the water come through the faucet, all the energy flow through, and they waste it, right? So what you do is you catch that energy in a jar and you stack it on the shelf so that when that man turns that faucet off, you can go to your shelf and get the water that you've been storing up. So I put my energy into things. I don't like to waste time, but I will invest like crazy, or even when you think about financial energy in terms of spending, where you put your money. When I was building out the basement in the house, I wanted a man cave and a nice office and everything. So I went all out on that. I put a lot of energy, a lot of financial energy into creating the best basement I could, because I knew that I was going to get it back. I know that now the value of the house, I put 50,000 in. Now the value of the house has increased by 70, 80 grand. So I'm getting all that energy back. But if it was wasted money, I don't have energy to waste, but I always have energy to invest.
And beyond that, a step further is it could be a place of inspiration that could give you an opportunity to create another $1 million idea. So it's not always just a financial investment in something. It's once I create this space, what is it going to do to inspire me maybe to create another $1 million idea or something? So I think that, everything is just not matter of fact when it comes to money. And that's where wealth conscious mindset comes in, because a lot of times we deprive ourselves of things that if we had those things, it would inspire us to have greater ideas and financial things will come out of it. So
yeah, consciousness is everything.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So in mindset is everything. We do everything based on how we're programmed. And so that's where I always tell people, you got to know we're all programmed. But
Yes.
How are you programmed? What is your programming? So it's just like, you go to these NA and AA meetings, the first thing they say, you got to say, I'm alcoholic. Well, for humans, we all got to say, I've been programmed. So you start there, and then you work your way back and say, okay, well, what is my program? What's your programming? What's your, and then we start to dive into that. So
that is so true. Excellent point.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving us some more time, Dr. Watkins. Does anybody else have any questions before we end? Yes, Donna has a question. I've been holding it for so long. It's okay.
Okay. Hey, Donna. How you doing?
Hey, Dr. Watkins, I applaud you. Thank you for allowing us this. However, I am a young investor investing for the first time. Not youthful. I have grandchildren. I know about small investments to up and coming businesses. Where do I find out about the Black up and coming businesses to invest in?
I can't think of any structured platform that does that kind of thing. I do know, however, that there are things like, if you're looking in terms of real estate, the blackreigroup.com, that's where Julian Gordon, and he has a group of Black investors that are buying up a big chunk of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They're buying a lot of distressed property there, and not distressed. I'm just buying a bunch of property there. And they decided they wanted to just invest heavily in one neighborhood and own a lot of land in that area. And that's the blackreigroup.com. And now, in terms of finding other investments, one thing you could do is find people that are like-minded, maybe meet them digitally and form an investment club, and get maybe some people to agree on some terms for the investment club, how much you're going to put in every month. Maybe have even a lockup period where once you start investing, you can't pull your money out for a year, but you got to make your payments. You put your money in every month so you can build a capital base. And then once you have a capital base, and if you're meeting every month and having conversations, just socialize, have some fun, but also learn, teach each other, right? What you can also do is you can form a little economy. I've seen this where they will then build a capital base and invite people that they know in their own networks to present business proposals to the group that they can invest in. And those are the best ways I found to really make good money, because then you find out about all these little investments that are out here that nobody knows about.
Yes.
They're not publicly
Yes.
traded or anything. Because there's somebody out there that maybe always wanted to run a bakery and they just need $5,000 to get it off the ground, and they turn that into $100,000 a year business, right? So
Right.
those are the little
Yeah.
diamonds I like to look for. I love to look for investment possibilities where it doesn't take a whole lot for me to get in, and
Right.
and the person has
Yes.
the ability to flip that into something bigger.
Okay. Okay. I wish I could remember where I was getting the information on the 2 small investments that I made. But I like that idea. But I'm also the 4 people that we are discussing creating this this endeavor. We're related. We're cousins, and we're having a hard time. Imagine cousins having a hard time agreeing on how to grow our money together. They wanted to create an LLC. Is that a good idea? Creating an LLC?
Yeah, there are some investment clubs that structure as LLCs. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think limited liability is a good thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool beans. Thank you. And I need to join your class. That's I just need to do that.
Okay, well, I guess it depends on what you like to learn. But if you go to theblackbusinessschool.com, we've got people right there on the line that can talk to you and let you know what we have. And we pretty much focus heavily on the 3 pillars of wealth. That's stock market investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. And everything we do is from a Black perspective. Black wealth is literally our number 1 obsession, and that's all we care about. So we're pretty good in that area.
Good. Yeah, because we are Black people. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Donna.
You're very welcome.
All right.
So we might, Dr. Bush, we might have to take one more question. Dr. Bush got to take his nap.
You preserve his energy.
You know about my nap? Yeah, I am a napper. I think I was born in Indianapolis.
Does anybody else with any questions before we wrap up? Anybody?
I have one quick question. Because you do, you don't apologize about supporting Black. Have you had any challenges in doing business in other arenas because you're known as the Black man supporter of Black businesses and Black people? So have you come up against any challenges and maybe trying to do some type of business transaction or getting support? Or
not really, because I don't knock on doors where I'm not wanted. I just don't. I'm not. You talked about programming earlier. I vehemently resisted the programming I had to believe somehow that getting acceptance from other communities was necessary for me to be valid as a human being. I know what I know what I can offer, and I said I'm just going to go talk to my people, and not even talk to all of my people. I'm going to talk to the right people, because even some of your own people may not understand, and it's okay. I don't, it's fine. I really am a believer in figuring out who you are and being the best version of that person you can be, and then figuring out where that person fits, how you can add value to the lives of others. And so by faith, we talk about like that. To me, that's the role of spirituality and everything else. Is I think I'm spiritual. I never define myself. I don't define myself that way readily, but I lean on a lot of spiritual concepts. And spirituality to me says, just keep going. Love yourself. Be the best you can be at what you do. Be the best person you can be. Add as much value as possible. And then, at some point, it'll all come together and you'll have what you need to move forward. And so I don't really, I've sold probably over 100,000 books. I've never had a book deal. I reach 1 million people a week. I've never had a TV deal, a radio deal, none of that stuff. I have done hundreds of speeches. I have never really been fully represented by a speakers bureau. We had to literally create our own speakers bureau, and that was all by design. Because in the very beginning, when I first started doing this in 2005, I knew it wasn't going to really be a fit for mainstream America. I'm hesitant to call myself a deep thinker, but I think a lot. So I think I'm pretty, I had a PhD. I got my PhD 20 years ago, right? So, and I'm much smarter now than I am then. So I remember just thinking, God, so many people are not even going to be ready for some of the stuff that I say. And I'm not even saying that it's the truth. I'm just saying that that like, so people will come to me and they'll argue about something. And they'll say, you're wrong because this and this. And I'll be like, yeah, I used to think that 22 years ago, and then I went to level 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so you just, so in terms of dealing with outside entities, I don't recommend other people do what I do. But I put the word Black in our business names for a reason, to deliberately restrict ourselves from temptation, to feel like, okay, let's go across the bridge and try to go over here and go over there and chase waterfalls. I believe that that Black economy, that $1.4 trillion every year, 90% of which we give away to white people, I think there's enough there in terms of redirecting and saying, for example, with the Black Business School, why not let Black people teach you? Why don't we partner with a lot of Black experts who can give you something better than you got at college? That kind of works. Now, I don't think everybody can do that, though. I think at some point, when we were raising our children, like if your child's selling, toilet paper and sneakers, there's no reason to only sell to Black people, right? So ultimately, those fundamentals of offering a high quality product at an affordable cost and good customer service and things like that, those things are universal, and you don't have to carry Blackness on your sleeve. I just happen to be a person who is obsessed with the Black wealth issue and racial inequality. And I believe that that's the one thing. I believe getting our economics together is the one thing that will fix us. And the part of the reason why I'm very happy that I don't have to do business with a lot of people who aren't Black is because I ain't got time to sit around and explain to you why Black people need to become stronger and more independent. I'm not gonna pander to your ignorance. We just gonna move forward. And so that's what we do. Our philosophy is heavily linked to powernomics, and power is the ability to pursue your agenda despite the opposition of others. So our belief is, let's get our people together. Let's be as great as we can be, make our children as strong as they can be, and they will grow up and they will take on the world. And we ain't got to worry about, whether or not other people decide to be nice to us, because they're going to have to worry about us. just hope we don't come through and gentrify your neighborhood in the next generation.
But that was a good one to close on. Amen to that. Right?
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Awesome. The funny thing about that is when you say that, I think about how you were talking earlier. With the spirit of wealth, and I want to thank everybody who did, as far as a speaker, presenter, participant, attendee, is that I know what I wanted, and I'm gonna pay for what I want to get what I want. So even